Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. We are getting ready to start on the DT360A reassembly. For anyone that took part in the poll and voted for which bike you wanted to see next, this one won by a slim margin. I think it was 29% of the votes got it. And then the next one in line was I think the 250B with 25%. So it was between those two, the DT125, which I got right here, and also the MT250 76, I think that is the Honda. So a whopping 52 people voted for the poll, and the DT360A won. So figured I'd start on this one next. I'm gonna be painting that yellow back to as close as I can to the stock colors. The fenders will be nice and easy because I have a silver that's really close. The side panel should be black, so I'm going to try to get that paint off of there because it's just black plastic. But the fuel tank and the oil tank, I'm going to try to put back to the Geneva green, which is the stock color for that year 360. And I found a place online that sells it in aerosol cans, so I'm gonna try the rattle can approach and try to make that look as pretty as possible. So I also got the frame back from my friend, and he did some welding on it for me right where the see if I can zoom in on that. He did a heck of a job getting the tab put back on there because that was missing, so it didn't have a kickstart or a kickstand. So he was able to fabricate that whole tab and also fix the tube that had a big gaping hole in the side there. For that, so I just got to put some paint on the frame and put that black back to black, and I'll be changing the rear tire out and a couple other things. I'm going to clean up some of these parts as much as possible. Had some chocolate syrup coming out of the exhaust when I pulled that out of the box, so I'm going to have to make sure that's not plugged up full of oil, and I'll try to put a coat of paint on the muffler too. So I'll freshen it up. It's not going to be a full restoration or anything. This is just more of like a refresh, and just to try to get it back to the stock green color and silver fenders. So this bike we know already runs end of last summer, I guess it was. I got this thing running and took it down the road, and it ran pretty good. Brought it back and just kind of got it ready for the teardown. So that's where we're at now. Without further ado, let's get started on it. So before I prime the frame and get that painted up, I wanted to show you the yellow parts that I was going to be dealing with here next, and what I'm going to plan to do with this. So the side covers were painted over plastic. I was able to peel most of that off. There's still some pieces I got to get to it yet to clean up, and probably get some paint remover or something to do that, or just keep trying to chip away at it, because if you flex this, it kind of cracks it and lets you peel it off a little easier. So got those to deal with. The all the metal parts that were painted with this yellow, actually they did a pretty good job with it. So I'm probably going to catch some flack for this, but I'm going to probably end up just sanding this down, getting it roughed up, because it's got a good base. I mean, it's not really chipping anywhere. At least some parts in the tank are a little bit, but it's nothing major. So I'm going to scuff that up and probably end up just painting right over top of that once I get this all the clear off and get it roughed up a little bit. And I'll look at it a little closer, kind of touch up some of the spots, probably go over it with primer again. But since this isn't like a full-on restoration, I'm just trying to get it to look like a decent rider again, and close to the stock colors. So the same thing goes for the oil tank. I'll get that cleaned up, of course, before I paint it, but scuff all this up. You can actually see there's some remnants of the green paint left over underneath the stock paint right there too. So I'll go up, scuff it up, prime it again probably, and then put the green here, the Geneva green. So I found this stuff on eBay. I'm not sure how well, it's got good reviews. I'm not sure how close it's going to be. But like I said, for just being a rattle can job, I'm not going for full on, 100-point restoration. Just trying to get a nice rider. I'm going to use the stuff I found on eBay that got a pretty good review too. So we'll see how that works. And then I'm going to use the 2K the 2K clear coat. I've had really good luck with this stuff. Used it on my XL350, the fuel tank on that, and I'll put some pictures up of that. Of how that came out. I was really pleased with how that came in. That was just another backyard rattle can job. And this stuff, you have to mix it here. There's a button down here you press when you're ready to start putting the clear on. You press this, mix it up, and then I think you have like 24, 48 hours to use the can up before that stuff goes bad. But it mixes up and does a heck of a job protecting from fuel and stuff. I've dumped fuel on that XL350 gas tank I don't know how many times, and it holds up well to all that. So gonna end up using that on definitely on the fuel tank, and if I have some left over, I'll use it on the fenders and stuff too, and also the oil tank here. The front fender, since that is plastic, you can see it was kind of chipping here from the previous owner's attempt to paint it. And I'm pretty sure that Yamaha used a plastic or paint over plastic on these from back in the day. It should be a silver color, and I'll probably try to replicate that too again, because the DT250 that I did up last year, I just used the plastic paint over top of the fender, and really no cracking or anything. And I've been riding that thing around and using it as a rider. So I'm going to attempt the same on here. I'm going to sand all this down, get it scuffed up, probably put the primer over top of it again, and then use the silver. So I'm going to move on here. I'm going to remove the rear brake bracket. I'll probably end up painting this silver too. Looks like they did this in black. I think that should be silver. So I'll get this off of here, and I'm not going to bore you with videos of you watching me sand all this stuff down. I'll just kind of bring you back in once we're past that point and getting ready to throw some paint on there. A C-clip here to remove. I can get this cap off. Turning my attention to the frame, I'm going to wipe this down with some alcohol. Get the metal as clean as possible. Right now it's all bare, so I'm just going to clean it up, put some primer on it, and put the gloss black on there. All right, so we got our first coat of primer on. Let this set up, and then I'll throw the gloss black over top of it, follow it up with a cover of clear. So far so good. So while I had the gloss black paint out, I was able to hit the swing arm, the chain guide, and I completed the frame here. So everything looks pretty good. I'm just kind of going over and seeing what I missed, touching up all the spots that came on light, but it's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna let this probably dry up here. Probably tomorrow or something I will put the clear coat on it, let it cure up as much as possible, and just move on from here. And continuing on in my backyard paint booth, I've got my fenders and stuff here all primed up, ready to go, ready for some paint. Got some other bits and pieces here that were primed up as well. All right, getting ready to put the silver paint on. I'll just bring you back when it's done so I spare you watching me paint. Nothing too exciting. All right, I'll bring you back when it's done. And continuing on, I got the fuel tank and the oil reservoir hanging up in my paint booth here. Just laid down the primer. Looking pretty good. All right, well, here's the finished product. Put loads of clear on that thing. And it came out the paint's a little darker than I really wanted it to be. But I could live with that. Kind of looks like I guess the 73, the darker green. I'm not sure what that green is called, but yeah, I might have put it on a little bit too heavy. Maybe that's why it's darker. But it's still a pretty shade. It's got the metal flake in it and stuff still. And here are the fenders too. So I'm also waiting for the decals for the tank and also the oil tank as well. So I got those coming in the mail. Once those come in, that'll be the icing on the cake. Well, here's another look at the finished product after putting the clear coat on, letting it cure for a little while. It's actually a couple days later. The tank decals finally came in, so I'm going to get ready to put those on. And I got the other pieces here finished up and got the taillight back on. So I know these parts look a little dark in these videos here. It's just because I'm back in the house. Out in the sun though, this green pops pretty good. I know it's darker than the stock colors on a 74 360A, but the green is just, it looks really good out in the sun. It's real deep color. You can see the metal flake in it real nice. You can kind of see some of that right now with just the lights in the house. So pretty happy with how that turned out. So the next part is going to be the nerve-wracking part of putting the decals on, and I'll video some of that so you can see me fumble around and hopefully get it on there straight. I've done it with my XL350, and that came out pretty good. So I'm pretty confident that I can make that work on this one too. So just wanted to show you this stuff, and also we got the frame painted as well, along with some other bits that needed it. So we're on our way. All the cosmetic stuff's pretty much done. So once I get these decals on, I can then focus on piecing this thing back together. Next comes the nerve-wracking part for me, is putting these decals on. This one's actually the first one I've tried that has like multiple pieces to it to make one solid line. So I've been looking online to see how people are doing it, and I think the approach I'm going to take is I'm going to put some painter's tape to hold this on, just to try to get it lined up and get it to right where I want it to be. And then clean it off real good, obviously, before I try to stick it to it. Just probably use some rubbing alcohol on here and get that cleaned off. And then I'll just possibly use some soapy water, and so I can move it around if I have to. But I'm going to do one at a time, and I think I'm going to start with the bottom one, just because I'll be able to follow this line a little easier, get that part on. But like I said, I'm going to put both of them on just with painter's tape, just to get a feel for how it's going to look and where it should be placed at. So got my tape. I'm going to get started on that. I guess first thing I should do is I'll wipe this down with some alcohol. So here's the reference of what I'm going to go by for the sticker placement here. And I think, like I said, I'm going to start with the bottom one just because I can follow the bottom line here a little easier. And it looks like once I get that, if I get that bottom one lined up, then the top one should just kind of connect with the with that first line. So let's give it a try and see what happens here. Got my surface clean. Let's see, I'll try that right there. Get another piece of tape up top. Trying to make sure this is flat all the way across. I'll get a piece on that end. Okay. Now, I'll get the top one and see about connecting it here. This will be a little tricky. There's a little overlap on this end of this. I'm going to have to kind of eyeball it and get it just right. Or I guess I could trim this here. I have to bring that down just a little bit. So I trimmed the edge of the decal a little bit so it lines up flush with the other one. And I got it taped on this end. I'm just kind of working my way around, trying to get this to lay flat. It looks like it's going to be on top of that, more on the top side of the tank. So judging by pictures I'm looking at online, that looks about right. So I'm going to tape this down as close as I can get it here. Make sure that it's laying flat. I think it looks pretty close to where I want it to go. Got that to line up in the back pretty well too. So I'm going to eyeball this a little bit more and just make sure that's where I want to keep it, and see how I'm going to apply this. This bottom line is looking a little crooked to me, so I might have to adjust this again, but just wanted to give you an idea of what my plan of attack is here. Looks pretty decent though. All right, so after rearranging this a little bit to get this bottom line more centered and even with the bottom of the tank, I think this is about where I'm going to be going with this. So I'm going to take this top one off. I'm going to leave the bottom one on and just kind of create like a hinge with the tape so I can kind of fold it back. And I think I'm just going to try to apply it that way. I'll make a hinge out of it with the tape, and then peel the backing off, and then try to lay it flat and get like a credit card or something and run along here as I remove the backing, just to get it as even as possible with the least amount of air bubbles as possible. So let's see how that goes. I'm going to give it a try. All right, so kind of did that just by eyeballing it. Probably not the best method, but I had it lined up pretty good, and I used this as the hinge marker. So basically just push it from this end all the way to the back, getting some good pressure on there, getting the air bubbles out. It went on pretty flat, so didn't even use a card or anything. Probably not the best method, but it looks pretty good. So I'm going to slowly peel back the top part here, and I'm just going to pull it kind of like back this way real slow, and I'm not going to pull upwards. I don't want to pull that sticker off the tank, obviously. So I'm just going to go real slow this way, just make sure that's still on there. Okay. right, so that looks pretty good. Don't have any air bubbles that I can see in there. Gonna give it a little press here. Looks good. Now, I'm gonna get this out of the way for now. I'll get the outer circle done and then worry about lining that up with the Yamaha emblem once we're ready for that part. But next part, I'm just gonna line up the tape again just to make sure I'm still on track, which I am. And I'm gonna do the same for this top part, which I have a feeling is gonna be a little trickier because he's got this curve here to deal with. I guess we'll find out. Just going real slow, pulling out the bottom as I go around, making sure this back end doesn't flip off of its spot, trying to keep that lined up too. That's the tricky part, is getting this part to start right where the line ends, and then on the other side too, getting it so, you know, when it goes over this curve, it kind of forms it in a different way. So I just am trying to go real slow, make sure that it sticks down as evenly as possible. I'm probably crazy for not trying this without the soapy water, but I feel this is working pretty good so far. So this is where I'm going to get a credit card and just kind of work out some of the little bubbles that are showing up at the end here where it curves. So it's coming together pretty good though, I'd say. Everything was going good up until this very back corner. So I'm going to peel the top side off and we're going to see what it looks like here. Start at this end. So far so good. A little bit off right there, but not horrible. Even got a little bit of bubbling in that decal in the back corner here. So I might try to flatten those out a little bit, but you know, I can live with that because that stuff's going to be partially covered by the seat, and it's not going to be real noticeable back there. I mean, I'll notice it every time, of course, but not too bad actually. Look at that. I'll get that center part. That part there is going to bug me a little bit. Not bad though. Pretty happy with that. Now I'm going to put the Yamaha emblem here. I'm just going to kind of reference my pictures that I got because I don't have a bike that I can get measurements and stuff from for the proper placement exactly, but I'm going to get it in the ballpark. And like I said, this is not a 100-point restoration bike. This is just a refresh rider bike. So I'm not expecting it to be perfect. Look at that. Looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Now I get to duplicate that on the other side. And just the same process on this side pretty much. Once I get that started, I can kind of pull back the bottom part. I don't need to keep you on here while I do this side too. So I'll bring you back once I'm finished. And hopefully it's just as good, if not better than the other side. Pretty happy with that. This one came out with less bubbles, but it just kind of missed the mark down here. But like I said, the seat's going to be right up against this, so I think it'll cover that blemish up a little bit. But overall, this side came out better than the other side, I'd say, because there's no creases in here at least. So I'm pretty happy with that, both sides. I mean, even with the small blemish on the other side here, I'm pretty happy with it. Not bad for a first-time decal installer, or something this intricate at least. Anything I've done before has been like one big piece, and there's nothing you gotta like line up. So I'm pretty happy with that outcome. Moving over to the oil tank. This is just one sticker. It'll be a lot easier than the fuel tank. So I'm just getting it lined up. Got the surface cleaned off already. And I'm just going to stick this one on next. And the most satisfying part is peeling this top one off. Look at that. Beautiful. Next up, I'm going to clean off this surface and get some alcohol in there, clean that up, and then I'll be applying the last sticker, which is this one here. Went ahead and stuck it onto the heat shield on the exhaust, and that one's ready to go too. Wanted to show you guys the mocked up tank and fuel tank and oil tank onto the frame with the seat, just to kind of get a feel for how it's going to look. So it's looking better than I expected, actually. So just got a couple more pieces to get cleaned up, like the shocks, and I'm probably going to throw some paint on here too. I forgot about doing those earlier for the headlight holders up on the forks. And I think she's looking good, so we're going to continue on here. All right, so I think I'm ready to start putting stuff back onto the frame here, probably starting with the motor. But I went through all of my bits of nuts and bolts and screws, just kind of matched it up to where they're going to be going. It's a little bit time-consuming process. Should have marked them better when they came out, but I had some good pictures I was able to reference. So I got all the rubber grommets in there, spacers, nuts and bolts cleaned up as good as I can get them. So I got engine mount bolts and the swing arm bolt ready to go. Got these in place for the skid plate. I know these are upside down right now, so once I'm ready to put the plate on, I'll just flip those around. And got the brake pivot and a couple other little things. I got this bracket ready to go. You're gonna have to look at some pictures again to see how that bolts up there, but I think I'm ready to finally start the assembly process. Long awaited. Can't wait to get this bike done and see what it looks like all painted up. And that is where I'm going to leave off for part one on the video here. Got all the cosmetic stuff pretty much done, ready to put back on that frame. And I still have a tire to put on this, and the motor itself I'm going to clean up a little bit more. I'm not going to go too nuts with that. Just kind of polish up the silver as much as I can. and degrease some of that too, which I already did. So I won't record all that. I figured that's kind of boring to watch anyways. So in the next video, I think it's going to be basically piecing this back together and getting it to the point where I can ride it. So stay tuned for that one, guys. If you're not a subscriber, you know the drill. Hit that subscribe button. Leave me a like. Leave me some comments. It goes a long way in helping the channel. And until that next video, I will see you guys then.